I need to start this video off with a warning. I'm not kidding around. If you are a TMPer, subscriber to the Nutnfancy project, a knife guy, don't watch the video if you don't have money to buy this knife. Because I'm going to make the case so compellingly, so completely, as to the awesomeness of the Microtech SOCOM, you just might find yourself powerless to resist this high-end tactical folder, one of my all-time favorites. That's a bold statement, because I like a lot of knives. I love a lot of knives. Welcome, if you're still with me, I guess, to the old school Nutnfancy thorough review on the Microtech SOCOM, based on over 8 years experience with the type, both in my military service and in my civilian life. I'm not kidding around. I have a lot to say about the blade. It's almost all good. You're going to want one, probably two. At the end, I'm going to show you where to go, save you some money, perhaps a few dollars, perhaps a lot of dollars on your Microtech SOCOM. Here we go into philosophy of use. I just put out a video. It's called the HEC video. That is the high-end carry concept, where I introduce EDCing an expensive blade in your daily system. Your law enforcement officer, your police officer, contractor, construction worker, civilian, medical person, it's fun to integrate a high-end carry knife into your system. You will love it. You will smile every time you clip it onto your uniform or your pants or whatever. You'll love it. The requirements to meet HEC in that video, please look at it. You'll see the link there in the upper right. I talk about the philosophy in depth in that video. I'll just summarize it very briefly here. Are that it has to meet some pretty stringent qualifications. Unparalleled quality levels. Exclusivity, specialness, generational wear, pricing, value. These are all parts of HEC, and yes, the Microtech SOCOM meets them in spade. It is an outstanding EDC choice. The only thing I will say is that it's perhaps, yeah, I got 3, no wait, 4 to show you, is that perhaps it's kind of on the big side for EDCing. I find that my original and very beloved, reviewed in 2008, Microtech Mini SOCOM Elites, here comes one, are a better size for EDC for me. Look at that sick desert camo. These are out of my personal collection. This one is dated December 2003. I've carried both manual and auto SOCOMs with me for mostly the mini model for the last 8 years, like I'm saying. Oh yeah, one other ground rule. I got a boo-boo on my finger. Drill bit in the shop. Sorry if you don't like it. Deal with it. Show goes on. This is better EDC size. This is better tactical size. And I'm talking serious tactical size. This is a 4-inch blade on the Microtech SOCOM. But wait, the formula gets better. Only 4.6 ounces for these knives on the table. 4.6 ounces? That is a technical achievement made possible by the handle materials and the way that Tony puts them together. Perfection. And yet you have a huge slab of high quality steel to go along for the tactical ride. One of the best tactical folders, actually in my opinion, at any price point you're looking at on the table. There, I said it, mean it, not taking it back. To be a tactical folder, it's got to have a decent traction plan. It's got to have good ergonomics. We'll hit that briefly later on. It's got to have a strong lockup. All those other things I've talked about over the years, they have it in spades with the Microtech SOCOMs. There you go. That's tactical. I may mention a little bit more on that. I'm going to jump on this one, though, and it's huge with Microtech guys. And I'm a Microtech guy. You may have determined that. That is collectability on Microtech. The way they put their knives together is special. Notice this one. The imprinting on the blade. You have a serial number. You have a Microtech stamp. And by the way, that stamp varies. Sometimes you'll have the eagle claw. Sometimes you'll have a completely sanitized blade. You won't have anything on it. I'll put this one up there, the Tanto version, which, by the way, I love that blade style that Microtech does. And this knife. This one's dated 11/2011. Steel type, 20 CV on this one. And then you'll get variations in fasteners. This is an 11 model, 2011. This is a 2000. Actually, that's a 2011. Let me get a 12 model. There you go. Variations. You can see the differences in screws. We'll mention that when we talk about handle. Handle inset material. You'll have variations on, well, I haven't seen this in the SOCOM, but the Mini had it. Variations where the clip was placed, how it was attached. Sometimes they'll have different printing on the clip. Various blade coatings. You get the picture. All of these things combine to make the Microtech SOCOMs, and honestly, all Microtech knives, extremely collectible. Now, if you don't believe me, you doubt what I'm telling you, just jump into, I don't know, eBay and go look at discontinued Microtech models and tell me how those prices look. I just showed an amphibian on camera. How's that knife, value-wise? I'll tell you, it's expensive. More expensive than when it first came out, and it was a production knife. A limited production knife, and that gets also to how Microtech does their blades. I don't know if they do it intentionally, but they have limited production runs. They'll build a SOCOM run, then they'll go into, I don't know, the Ultratech run. Very collectible, and in this case, collectability in terms that it will gain in value, not just that it gives you a huge enjoyment factor to the owner. It will do that. Moving along. How about gift? Gift item. Okay, guys, TMPers, my friends across the world, guys who love knives like this, here's what I'm going to do right now. We are 7 minutes into the video, and I'm getting ready to talk to your girlfriend or your wife. So pause the video right now, and I'm going to talk to them, okay? Hey there, this is Nutnfancy. I am a gear reviewer of sorts, currently using YouTube, and your husband totally wants this knife, or boyfriend. And seriously, he is an awesome dude. He deserves it. What? It's too expensive, you say? Well, remember how awesome he is. He deserves it. And think about this. Every time he picks it up, he's going to think of you. This is an ultra quality tactical folding knife. Your husband / boyfriend wants it. He deserves it. Please go buy it for him. He will love and worship the ground you walk on if you do it. And by the way, I'm not kidding. I am not kidding. This is a keepsake collectible. Thank you for your support. This is Nutnfancy. Sorry your husband watches so many of my videos. Don't hate me for it. Okay, that's the girlfriend, wife part. Did you like that? Back to the knife, guys. I seriously hope she buys that for you, dude. I know it's expensive. We'll talk about value. You will never regret owning a SOCOM. I never have regretted spending all the money I did, and I'm not going to lie to you, it was sizable. Check out this one. Here comes another Mini SOCOM Elite manual action, which actually is my favorite. I like it better than the auto version of the Mini SOCOM Elite, which I showed just recently in other auto knife reviews, right? There's one right there. That's my flight suit knife. Having flown over enemy territory, my sons covet this knife, along with other Microtechs. These are special to me. Never regret having spent money on them. They hold value. I could sell it for a lot more than I ever bought it for. Not kidding. Collectible, gift, oh my gosh, off the charts. We gotta move. Steel blade shape. You're going to get a smorgasbord of steel in pretty much every Microtech knife, and they're all pretty good. The SOCOM Elites that I showed you, the Minis, have 154 cm. I've never found that steel wanting. No, not never. I love it. By the way, this is a fun video. I'm really into the knife. You may have detected that. It'll go, I don't know, 28 minutes or so. That's my guess. If you need to run, come back, watch the rest later. These ones right here are in S35VN. That's an excellent steel. Crucible Metals tells us it has about 140% better edge retention than classic 440C. It's tougher though in their charts. It has about 3% vanadium if I remember. micro grain structure, very uniform. It's a CPM metal, built with that technology, very consistent. Great metal. It is not, however, a wonder metal. Just isn't. I know this because I've cut with it at this point some, not lots. For instance, this knife right here. There's your test bed for this review. I took this sucker out, you might tell just by looking at it, and did cardboard cutting with it. A lot of cardboard cutting with it. And stabbing tests with it. Let's see if this S35V is a miracle steel. And for that test, I'm going to do just a cardstock cutting test. First off, I'm going to go straight through. Can it go straight through? Kind of. Ooh. Not bad. Now let's do a little slicing motion. And I haven't touched this up, by the way. Nothing. After cutting a fair amount of cardboard. I'm not talking about 100 yards, but as you're seeing in the inset, I didn't mess around. The review deserves it. There's a couple of them that it was hanging up on, but there's still an edge there. And if I give a slicing moment to it, there you go, it's kind of pulling right there. My take on S35V from this knife is that it's about like S30V, which is to say, excellent, but you'll still go dull cutting with it. It's not a miracle steel. That's the bottom line. It resharpens okay. I was going to resharpen this for the review, but I wanted you to see that edge as it went. Okay, I think it's okay to sharpen. I've sharpened lots of S30V and it's decent. Not the easiest steel in the world to sharpen. Guys will say that. I like it. This one, by the way, is in a Duratec Steel. I think that's the name of it. 20 CV, I don't have experience with it. I've talked about another Duratec steel. I think that was in that SOG knife that I reviewed. And that one, for whatever reason, failed to connect with knife guys. They just didn't like it. I think what I want you to take away with the SOCOM steel choice is that it's going to be good. And I think 20 CV is a good steel choice too. It's going to be rust resistant, fine edge holding, upscale in most occasions, and if they do vary it, it'll probably just add to the collectability. I love the steel choices. I have no issues with them whatsoever, and that takes us to blade shape. Can you believe I got a Tanto for you guys on the table? I love this one because it has a gradual approach to the tip. I don't generally like folding knives when they have a very abrupt angle, Tanto-wise. This blade is actually beautiful. Look how thick that steel is, 0.17 inches in thickness, and that's for both the clip versions you see on the table and this Tanto version. That is a slab of steel, and I suspect one reason these knives cost so much because buying it in that thick stock is expensive, having talked personally to the knife makers for years. So great tip. It's of medium thickness. It's not super thick, and I think it strikes a perfect blend between precision and strength. Look at that swedge swooping down. This is one of the Tanto styles that are just good to look at and very functional. I find that because it has additional mass, in other words, it has larger flats than the clip version does, it deploys quicker. The Tanto one does. This is a heavier blade. Same stock, just heavier. Also, these flats on all of the SOCOM models make resharpening it a very consistent affair. Great job. I mean, I love that because then I use an Edge Apex Pro and I don't want to roll the knife as I'm, working on the edge with my stones. You have a nice flat, you can put it up there. So that's a Tanto version. Love it. And maybe just slightly, cut my reviewing cloth, maybe just slightly better. Let me show you this one. I like the clip version because of its overall utility. Got to get a drink. You guys know I love clip versions, right? Nothing's changed. Look at the belly. Perfect. Look at the elegant swooping design on the SOCOMs. We saw that in the Mini SOCOM Elite. I raved about it then. Nice unsharpened swedge. This is a beautiful and elegant and yet very functional tactical or HEC blade. Oh, by the way, did I tell you I stabbed with this thing too? Our little test knife right there. Not tons, but a fair amount penetrating cardboard, and it functioned well. I'm talking about the clip version. Tanto version would be even better. This is an effortless penetrator and utility knife at the same time. This, by the way, is their satin finished blade. This is dated February 2012. You can see the serial number there. I call it Scotch-Brite. It's not really satin to me. Thought I had a stone washed, and sometimes I get those confused. Looking at them, there's really not a huge difference between them. There's a black finished, I think that's titanium carbonitride. This is a satin finished. That might be stone washed, I forget. And black handle. This is, I think, olive drab. Nope, that's actually desert tan. This is desert tan. It's very muted. Every anodizing coloration is going to be different. I've talked about that on camera for a long time. There's just different variations. Black, and I have a number 5 to show you. A couple of these are TMP blades. Yep, spent TMP money on them, worth it. And a couple are loaners. Here comes one, OD. Look at that. Almost looks dark gray, doesn't it? Yeah, I'm getting distracted talking about the handle. We'll get there in a second. Still on blades are the blade shapes. I think I covered everything on the clip. Tanto was good. Let me talk about speed. Gosh, this is just a formulation that works for me. I'm not even kidding around. Perfect. Perfect speed. And that deployment right there sucked. Let me do a better one. Listen to when it comes out, the thwack of the SOCOM. It is just so impressive. You don't even need to whip the wrist. You can just do it with thumb tension. Perfect balance, perfect lockup in this liner lock. I'm talking the full-size SOCOM. Phosphor bronze bushings in there. I've never found that they need a lot of oil in these versions. I have had manual actions, mini SOCOM Elites, that were honestly a little bit sticky, and I did have to lubricate them up, and over time they improved slightly, not a lot. I don't see that in the versions I've looked at within the last three years or so. They're all just absolute perfection as to speed. So we're going to call speed perfect on the level of, and this is a huge compliment by the way, a Benchmade 940 Axis. That's a reference speed blade for me, almost like a freaking auto. Let's look at the liner lock. This is a 2012 version. All these things may change over time. This is where we're at now. Look at the locking bar. This version actually changed, if I'm getting my details right. Forgive me if I don't. This has a floating locking bar milled in the 6061 T6 handle. Okay, and if we look at a 2011 version, our test bed for instance, no, that's a 12. Tanto's an 11. This has actually a thicker locking bar. I'm calling it a locking bar. It's kind of a liner lock, but to me, I think of it as a locking bar because it is so solid. Look at the engagement on it. This one actually had a milled retention slot, at least that's what I call it, and it's pinned. This one is floating. It's just held in by spring tension, and I don't think they're having any issues with them. I haven't heard of any if there are. Strength is excellent. These are not survival knives, so you don't want to go out batoning with them. That's not their calling. Their calling is tactical blades. Fighting knives, honestly. I love the strength, and again, I'm going to draw upon my 8 years experience with the SOCOMs. The only difference is these were actually frame locks. And they had a 154 hardened steel engagement surface on that was supposedly replaceable. I bet you'd be hard to find that if you needed one. Now it's been discontinued. So frame lock, kind of a frame lock here, but more of a liner lock, technically speaking. Lockup is amazing. Let me tell you this too. After I did all my cardboard testing and stabbing tests, I really checked this one out, guys. And if there are some flaws, I would tell you. I didn't want to see any wiggle for a price of this knife. I'm sorry, for a knife of this price. Listen. Side to side. Nothing. I didn't do it all day long, but I think I did enough to get a good test out of the SOCOM, and I think I thrashed on this blade so you don't have to. Trust it. I think the lockup superior. I shouldn't say superior. There's a lot of knives that are strong out there. Strength, therefore, I'm going to also call excellent. Drawn on my experience again. That brings us to the handle. This is a 12 model. Notice that it has CF inserts in it. Hey, Nutnfancy, you like that? Well, go back to my carbon fiber Spyderco native review. I kind of criticized that one because it had absolutely no traction. It was all about looks. And yes, I have to criticize it here because it's the same thing. Now, I like my knives to look cool, but first and foremost, I want them to be functional when I have a tactical philosophy of use. Getting back to what I said I would, and that is the traction plan of this. I prefer the skateboard tape of the earlier versions. Here's one right here. Here's the 11. Look at that. Same one that I showed you in 08 on the minis. Is it as aesthetic? I don't know. It just is in the eye of the beholder and what you find attractive. If your thumb does go to the side on these 2011 models, you're going to find a lot of traction. More than not, and I think I said this in my mini SOCOM Elite review, you're going to be up here. And up here is good because this CNC milled-in Gemping is functional. On the blade here, not so much. And actually, it angles away from the thumb like that too. So forget about that. That sucks. This is good. And you can find it all around the handle. If you do a reverse grip, maybe that section there will be helpful. I don't find that it is. I never do that with this knife. That's very sharp, functional, but not obnoxiously sharp where it's cutting into you. I don't find it to be that way. Okay, so inserts, I prefer that one. The CF is cool looking. There you go. That's just my mileage. How about the fasteners? Microtech is back to using their proprietary fasteners, and I think generally it irritates most of its customers. At least with a manual action knife where perhaps one day we might have to take it apart, cleaning it, getting sand out of it. You're going to have to go out and search out the tri-wing or tri-span, screw heads for that. They're out there, and there's one for that as well. My retailer that I'm going to recommend later in the video will have those if you want them. This has actually the old school Torx. So I think Tony and company said, hey, you know what? Let's just go old school. There's a pivot screw. It was a Torx. Notice the handle, by the way, it's skeletonized just by virtue of the CNC milled handles. God, I love this knife. How about the ergonomics on the handle? I call them excellent overall. In the forward grip, they're excellent. Thumb here, you have an index place here. It actually serves two functions. That is a place to curve your index finger around on. And then also it allows access to those dual and ambidextrous thumb studs, which I forgot to mention in speed. That's one reason the knife is so fast. Because you can access it. There are no occlusions, obstructions, and there's no volcano issues on this. Well done, Microtech. God, they just come out so fast. Handle's excellent. So in the reverse grip, it works well, and it's actually better than the Mini SOCOM Elite in size. I said this in a review in 2008. If you go into the reverse and need to use a non-lethal impact, you're going to have to kind of swap it around to fit the curvature of your thumb like that. It's perfection. Look how ergonomic that is. Except for one thing, it might not be any more non-lethal since they've included, which I'm glad to see, for utility tasks, a carbide glass breaker. This is a 2011 SOCOM again. Notice the profile of the glass breaker and notice that there is a slight amount of wiggle in it. There have been, I think, a few complaints that this popped out under hard use. While we're here, look at the lanyard hole. Perfect for threading 550 cord. Now let's look at a 12 model glass breaker. It is more rounded. I think perhaps they're getting complaints on it. I don't know, guys, as they're extracting the knife, working with a knife. I have never seen that with these knives, but maybe that's what it was. The good news is it's a little bit more rounded. It's still there, and there's no wiggle now. Okay, it's very firmly set into the 6061 T6 handle. There you go, that's the handle. Oh, while we're here, man, I'm glad I remember this because it's so perfect. I gotta get it on camera. Look at that blade centering, dudes. I've looked at about 20 of these knives. Heck, I got 5 of them here for you right now. Does it get any better? I don't see any problems at all. And that is a feat, if you ask me, especially when you have a blade this thick. How's that handle retention while we're here? Perfect. And you can still shake it out if you want to, of the handle. God, that sounded cool. Let's do that again. One more time, sorry. Oh my gosh, that sounded good. I didn't go quite into battery with that one. Handle's excellent. Ergonomics, I think I've hit on most of the things. I think I'm going to jump to clip right now. Here comes a minor criticism, maybe a major criticism, depending on how you look at it. You guys know that I like tip-up carry. You can't do that with the SOCOMs by Microtech. In fact, if you're a lefty, you're stuck with where that clip is. Okay, so maybe that is a showstopper for you. It's not for me in this particular knife. Now, why did they go to that end on the clip? I didn't call Microtech up and ask them. I have a 2003 manual Mini SOCOM Elite right here. No. Had the same thing. I never really dug that one so much, especially in the Mini. The ones I liked were this one. Perhaps they had problems with this loosening up with a single screw attachment, even though there is a milled inset into the Mini's handle. In my auto, I have had that loosen and start spinning around. Had to take it out, clean it, and re-Loctite it. Maybe, just maybe they had problems, and they're like, hey, to just get rid of any clip problems, let's just put it on the pivot point and we'll sink it in with 3 screws. They've been doing that a long time. You can see this is an 03 knife. That's what you get with a SOCOM. So I wish that it was positionable. I wish it was up to the user. Granted, we have some design elements that would come into play. I mean, you don't have an inset here for any traction material. That is a player. So we're talking about elegance, looks, perhaps is an 11 model as well. But you don't have that. It does bury deep. That's the good news, even though it carries tip down, and the clip is near perfection. I wish it were blackened. Hardened stainless steel clip. There's no Wizard of Oz issues going here. In other words, it doesn't flare out too much, grab on cars and other stuff. I love the SOCOM clip other than where it's positioned. And some guys will prefer it on the pivot point because they find it less obtrusive, because if it's here, it's digging into this portion of the hand. Your mileage may vary, like I always say. Durability. Top notch, baby. Top notch. In my experience with the SOCOM models, using them the way I've used them, and I wouldn't say, again, I'm out there just totally beating on these knives, you know, cutting carpet as a construction worker, linoleum. I haven't done that. But in my utility tasks, in some military operations, I've never found the SOCOMs to come up weak. These are military-ready knives, proven by my own experience. If you don't abuse them, if you are smart enough to run the tips wisely, I mean, this Tanto version is probably your heaviest duty blade. By the way, I told you about this. Let me demo this real quick. Oh my gosh, that comes out so fast. Told you that blade's heavier, how it comes out. Yeah. But back to durability. If you don't abuse the blades, drop them onto concrete, I think you'll love it. I haven't seen a problem with the lockups on my Microtechs over time. Now, when we talk about quality levels of Microtech, there have been some complaints that over the past few years, Microtech has slipped. They're not quite as awesome as they used to be. Here's how I see that, at least with the SOCOMs that I have on the table. I got 5, and I've looked at more. I see absolutely 0 quality problems. Keep in mind, I go back to 2004 with the SOCOM, so I have a little bit of experience. I have a little bit to draw upon, right? I don't see any quality problems. Is it just internet banter? Is it just haters going out and establishing a groupthink? Perhaps. I just give it to you straight. If I saw quality problems, I would call them out on it just like I do every manufacturer. Nobody's favored. Nobody's protected in the Nutnfancy project. If you suck, I'm going to tell the world. In a cool way. But I want you to improve. That's one of my purposes here. Durability, quality control from what I see is outstanding. Customer service may have some issues. Hopefully you never have to use them. For a knife of this expense, I don't know. You should have great customer service. Microtech, are you listening? How about value? Man, this video is fun. Well, it's expensive, dudes. But you know what? So are a lot of top-end tactical folding knives that are made in the United States of America with original design and top-end materials. Remember what I said about the S35VN. That being said, let's discuss. I don't have them on the table. I might have 1 or 2 here to show you some competitive options real quick. Any kind of Emerson, be about in the same ballpark. This is going to be about, by the way, if I didn't say so, about a $270 knife. Look in the upper right now. If you want one, go order it right now at my recommended retailer. You might have to phone call them to get that special Nutnfancy pricing. Can't do it on the internet because of MAP deals. So that's a lot of money, $270. But I'll tell you what, Sabenzas sell all day long at $410. The Chris Reeve Sabenza 21 3.6 inch blade, so it's even smaller than the one on the table. 5.2 ounces. Hold on, make sure I'm getting that right. No, it's 4.7 ounces on the Sabenza, so it's equally lightweight. Love the Sabenza, by the way. Same steel, $410. Guys buy that all day long. So this is a lot less than that knife. How about Emerson? I mentioned those. All kinds of models you could get. They're going to be about the equal pricing. Lone Wolf. Do I have a Lone Wolf here? Yeah, I got my old T2 out. There you go. S30V steel. Look at that coloration. You've seen it before. Probably not in a long time. No longer available. Eat your heart out. This is 4.2 ounces. At the time, only $132. Like I said in that review video, a smoking value. Smoking. Good luck trying to find that in 2012 and beyond. Ain't going to be able to do it. How about this one? You guys are going to dig this. Line Steel SR1AL aluminum. This is in D2 steel. And do I have a weight written down? Yeah, I do. It's heavier, 5.4 ounces, a full ounce heavier. And it's going to be around, I think, a 160. So it's going to be less, but it doesn't have that tactical blade. Not really. It doesn't have the overall traction that does. It's still a beautiful, gorgeous, well put together Italian blade. Love the Line Steel SR1. Different models, colorations. A lot of second type of kind of cool going on there. Real quick, that's just an option. Oh, here's one. How about this? The Hogue EX01. 154 cm steel, 100. I don't even know. Is this like $175? This is a loaner. 5.2 ounces, so it's heavier. It has some pivot issues going on here where you can get some serious confusion going on. I'll probably review that. Great looking knife. It's cool. Big old blade. Great big tactical folder. From what I've seen about it, probably another hard use, high-end knife. And then you have the Strider S&G. Those sell all day long. $400. S30V steel, about 4.4 ounces. So my point is this. It's not the least expensive, and it's definitely not the most expensive, but it is still one of the best, the Microtech SOCOM. It has off-the-charts cool factor because it's so functional in what it does. The speed and lockup cannot be improved upon. The dual thumb studs, the handle as it's put together, perfection. By the way, those thumb studs rock right against that handle as blade stops. Forgot to mention that. The blades are perfection. They're very thick stock. They're high-end steels. They come offensively sharp. You can get whatever style you want. All of them are excellent, at least the ones I'm showing you on the table. The colorations, the specialness of the Microtech SOCOMs, off the charts. They're all collectible. They won't be made forever. They'll be discontinued, and if you just take care of it and use it as nothing more than a collectible, if one day you decide to get your money out of it, wives, are you listening? You can sell it and do just that and probably make some money while you do it. Cool features, carbide glass breaker. I like this handle material best. Blade centering, durability, all of that, perfection. The only criticisms I can level against this knife are perhaps price. It is expensive, but it is a Microtech, and part of that expense makes it special. And then the clip, and that's about it. Other than that, go get one, maybe two. When you have money, these knives rock. One of my favorites of all time in the tactical category. This is Nutnfancy. See ya!